Welcome to our third webinar of the 2026 Thermo Fisher JIC application season. My name is Reva Ramadorai, and I'm joined by my colleague Alex Grace and many special guests today as it is our alumni advice webinar. So in just a few minutes, you're going to hear straight from alumni from the class of 2025 all about their experience with the Thermo Fisher JIC application with finals week, and they're going to share their tips for you as nominees working on your application and just give you an idea of what's in store if you complete your application. So before we dive into the Q&A, we're going to just talk a little bit about the Thermo Fisher JIC competition for those of you that might not know as much about it yet. So if you're here, you're probably already a nominee, but just in case you need some more background information, the Thermo Fisher Scientific Junior Innovators Challenge is the premier STEM research competition for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students. We were sponsored by Broadcom Foundation from 2011 to 2022 and the Discovery Channel before that. So we've been around for quite a while. And to qualify for the competition, students must first place in the top 10% of in a society affiliated science fair. And then ultimately, after going online and completing our application, finalists, 30 of them, are invited to spend a week in DC showcasing their research projects and also competing in hands-on team challenges together. So if you're looking for more information about Thermo Fisher JIC, definitely check out all the many resources that we have available. If you've already opened an application, we have a tab called Resources where you can find citation guides, information about how to convert PDFs. We also have a lot of videos here on our YouTube channel, so definitely go through and check those out. We have walkthrough videos of each section of the application, webinars from this year and past years. Um, Particularly, we just did a webinar, our last one on part 3 and scientific integrity in the visual aid. So if you're looking for more information about those sections, definitely check that out. And then, of course, we have our website. So without further ado, we're going to dive into our alumni advice. So hi, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining. We're going to go ahead and just do some quick intros first. So you can tell us your name, where you're from, and tell us what your favorite area of science is, what you like to do research in. So Simone is to my right. I'm going to start with you. Go ahead.
My name is Simone Smith. I'm from Tucson, Arizona, but I'm currently living in Puebla, Mexico. And my favorite area of science is probably computer sciences.
Nice. Yukta, you can go next.
Hi everyone, my name is Yukta. I'm from Dublin, California, and what I'm most interested in science is biology and AI.
Awesome. There was, yeah, two very different things, but definitely can be connected. Camila, how about you?
Hi, my name is Camila Gonzalez Thompson. I'm from Ponce, Puerto Rico, and the area of science that I'm most interested in is probably immunology slash biology.
Nice. Luca, how about you?
Hi, I'm Luca McGill. I'm from Tucson, Arizona, and the area of science I'm most interested in is probably microbiology.
That's a fun one. And Sid, last but not least.
Yeah, hi, I'm Siddharth, and I'm from Austin, Texas. The area of science that I'm most interested in is physics and energy science.
Great. Thank you all so much. We got as a wide variety represented here. So Alex is going to ask the next question.
Awesome. Why should students apply to the National Middle School Competition, and what motivated you to apply? You can have Camille start.
Honestly, I think the main reason that students should apply is that it's such a great opportunity. And really, it's just something that once you get into the competition, you really get in the feel of it. It's like an experience like none other. There's nothing else in the country that can compare to that experience. And what motivated me to apply was really going on the YouTube and seeing the videos from the past competitions and really just seeing everyone being able to express themselves and just really the feel of the competition.
Thanks so much, Camilla. Everyone else, feel free to just unmute and also go ahead and answer the question if anyone else wants to go next.
I think something that was also really great as an experience at the competition was getting to meet lots of other people who are also interested in doing science research and even other like experts in the field, like the judges that we had and a dinner before the award ceremony. That was a really great experience as well.
Yeah, also another benefit of like applying to national competitions like Thermo Fisher JIC was that you get to actually share a project that you worked on for the entire year with experts in the field, which motivates you to learn more and want to grow more, make more rigorous projects in the future, which could be more than just a competition. It could lead to just a lifetime of trying to explore and be curious in STEM. I was motivated to apply by the style of the competition and the videos, like this one.
Going off what Siddharth said about meeting people and experts, I also enjoyed meeting like just everyday people and getting to share my work and seeing myself inspiring them. I applied because I knew this would be my last chance to apply and thought, why not?
The reason why I applied was because it was the next step in my science project, like path. So I did my regional science fair and got nominated there. And then I was like, what the heck? Let me just apply and see what happens. And then I got in, and it was the best experience of my life. I got to meet some great people, some like talented minds, and I got to share my project through the public day that they host.
Thanks, everyone. I love that you all touched on so many different unique parts of the finals week experience. I think something that's less obvious is that interaction and that meeting new people that you guys talked about. And it's such a unique opportunity where you really get that feedback, put your project out there. And so many, I think you all would agree, so many of our finalists come back and say, the judges were so nice to talk to, and they really wanted to learn about my project, and they gave me feedback. And I think that's like a unique experience here, that I know going into it can feel kind of intimidating and scary. It's judging, but ends up being a very positive, worthwhile experience for folks. And then I also love that, and hopefully you talked about the fact that you really have nothing to lose. That's what Alex and I always say when like all of our emails. At most you put in some time to the application, but you not only could get everyone who enters the application by the deadline gets a t-shirt in the mail, which is pretty fun and nice to get over the summer. And then you never know, you can make it all the way to the top 30. I think so many of our finalists say that they had no idea that they would make it all the way to the top. So you really have nothing to lose by trying. All right, thanks, guys. So the next question is a little bit about your own personal STEM journey. We have a lot of students that might be debating whether it's worth it to apply, and maybe haven't seen themselves as scientists or engineers. So tell us a little bit about your own STEM journeys and how you became interested in STEM, and what words or pieces of advice might you have for students feeling a little bit of imposter syndrome. Does anyone want to start? Go ahead, Luca.
My own STEM story was I started these science projects in second and third grade, starting with like making juice like edible into the form of like balls, so people could eat them and get like this rush of juice. Um, Very second grade project, but I kept going and did 8 more projects every year well, not 8 every year, but 1 every year, which totals up to 8 total projects. And it genuinely helped me learn so much about so many different things. So, if you are doing your STEM project, I think you should keep going and apply to Thermo Fisher, because with my project that I entered into Thermo Fisher, I did another year afterward about the project, making it better and more revised.
That's a great story, Luca. I love that. I love your second grade project. That sounds like would love to hear more about that write up later. But yeah, that's a great note to share with everyone.
Well, I want to touch on how, really in my school, science fair is like completely, no one does science fair. It's just completely out of the ordinary to actually focus on science and take time to actually do science research. So it was something completely unheard of in my school, and competing at regionals even rare. So my first time presenting my project, and then I went to regionals, and then I got nominated, and then it was just like a crazy upward path from there, from my first time doing a project to finally getting into the top 30 and winning an award. And it was just like um getting that input from my classmates of, wow, you're really spending your time on that, you're really doing an actual project. It just really motivated me to actually put effort into it and to show that it could amount to something.
My science journey probably started when I was in first grade and did my first science fair project about what pants made me go down the slide the fastest. And then from there, I just kept doing more and more until I got to where I am now. And if you're feeling imposter syndrome, like you already got a nomination, you made it this far. That's so impressive.
My STEM story started when I was like in early elementary school. I would try to do like some hands-on experiments with my parents and like just basic like electromagnetic spectrum, cool stuff with um, food, etc. This curiosity later built into my science fair project that I did last year, and oh, this curiosity built into the science fair project that I did last year, and it honestly, you don't really need to be a scientist or an engineer. You don't need to see yourself as that to do things something like this. All you need is a genuine curiosity, and that will get you far enough.
Yeah, I think pretty similar to everyone else. I've also been doing like STEM. I've been interested in STEM and I've been doing some competitions since pretty early in elementary school. And I would say that even if you don't have that much of a background and this is like your first year doing stuff like this, it's still a great way to see like explore your interest in the science project that you did that was enough to get you this nomination. And if you're feeling imposter syndrome also, like Simone said, you've gotten this far, your project is clearly amazing. So
Thank you. That was fabulous answers. Yeah, I think to just reiterate some of those great points we heard in there. One, you got this far, you competed at your science fair, received a nomination. That is a huge feat unto itself. Being in the top 10% of the students at your science fair, to be proud of your work, and really Thermo Fisher JIC is an opportunity to just explore and write more about the work you've already done and give yourself the opportunity for that work to impact even more people. And it's true, like you're all that, the work that you've done, like you're following your natural curiosity, that's what really matters. And so JIC is another way to communicate that hard work and to show other people your curiosity and your passion. And yeah, you only gain from this experience. So thank you all for that. I'm going to shift a little bit to application specific questions, since all of you are pros at filling out the application. The visual aid is another place where nominees get stuck often. They get stuck on choosing the best graphs and visuals to represent their projects without filling in every single bit of white space. What was important to you to include in your visual aid? Whoever wants to start, go ahead.
I get that you can get stuck on adding all these great graphs with all your data, but you don't need the best graph, and there is no best graph. You should choose the one that makes you feel the best about your project. And you also don't need to fill all this white space on your slides. it's okay to have all these like small spaces so you don't have everything over the top on every single slide.
And on my visual aid, I definitely wasn't filling every single inch of I think, two sides of the slide that we were allowed. But mainly what I focused on was I had some graphics on my board for the methodology that I used, and I focused on also having my results graphs. And those were the two main things that I could also refer to in the rest of my application. That helped a lot. And I think, yeah, you should mainly just focus on what's useful to you because that could be different between different projects. So, yeah.
For my project in visual aid, what was important to me was I had a few like key flowcharts that were on my regional board. So those conveyed a lot of the procedure and work that I had to do to build the parts of my project. And I felt that was a very good representation of the overall thing. It gave them a decent idea. And yeah, building on what Yukita said, the results graph is also very important. You want them to see what you did, how you did it, and what you got out of it, or what were your results.
Yeah, I think it's important not to show every graph, just the ones that really paint the picture of your project, like what your results came out of, how you did it. Like what I did was my results, how I did my project, and I definitely did not use all the space.
Also, I feel like there's so much more to the application that focusing too much time on the visual aid really takes away from the rest of the time that you put into the project. So, really keeping your graphs to be clear and to be concise and easy to understand is a really important part of the project because adding to the graph, you have your essays, you have all of the data from your project that's already in your application, and all that just comes together and it just really makes it easy for the judges to understand.
Awesome. Thank you. And I honestly couldn't have said it any better myself. You all did a great job at really emphasizing what's important. And yeah, just to clarify, the visual aid is a 2-page document where you can provide graphics, visuals, charts, flowcharts that help support your written responses in part 3. And yeah, these can be the size of an 8.5 by 11 sheet of printer paper. And like they all said, the most important graphs are on there. You're not gonna be able to fit them all in because you want it to be readable if you were to print it out on regular printer paper. I'm gonna go on to our next question. We know you're busy with schoolwork, after school activities, and hobbies. What are some tips for managing your time and your mental health, especially for students who now have an application to complete on top of everything else at the end of the school year? Top in whoever wants
I
to.
feel like one of the best tips that you can really take into account is that don't treat your application as if it's homework. You don't have to complete it all at once immediately because you're immediately just going to get burnt out, sick of your project, sick of the application. So really my trick when I was filling out my application was just to do like a little bit at a time. Maybe on Monday I write an essay and on Tuesday I write a little bit about my project. And then on maybe I skip Wednesday and then on Thursday I write another essay and then just really take it a little bit at a time and really plan out your time so that you can have it all ready and fact checked and everything before the due date.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
I would also say, like, try to start as early as possible because that was probably one of the mistakes I made. Like, if I could go back and redo it, I would definitely start earlier than I did. I think that would have helped a lot in getting me more time to like revise and make things a little better.
Yeah. So, building on what both Yukta and Camila said, consistent effort always beats the last minute, do a few hours every day, because you will get burnt out. This is your project. You have spent a lot of time working on it, and it's clearly very good to have gotten this far. But even if you can dedicate just 10, 20 minutes per day for a few months over the entire time that you're given, that is a lot better on your mental health and the time that you have available. It's also much better to start early. Also a mistake that I made as well.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend starting early and just taking your time on the application and making sure like you're telling your story completely, looking over it, like being as thorough as possible without getting burnt out. Just take your time.
Something I did was have other people help me be accountable for the deadlines that I had. And then with that, I had a bunch of school extracurriculars like soccer, track, and all these other sports. So what I did was take like 30 minutes on the application and then go out for a run and then come back, do another 30 minutes, and then go back and maybe keep running or play the piano, whatever, and just take it in like these chunks, you know?
Yeah, that's great. I love like doing the little mix of stuff to kind of keep your mind fresh, but then not get too fatigued. Like Camilla said in the beginning, you could kind of go crazy if you try to complete this all in a very short amount of time, all just in one go. So definitely agree with everyone's advice to space it out as much as you can. Um, if it makes any of y'all feel better, it and those watching at home, we always get people at least a few hundred applications opened in those last like 2 days right before the deadline. So it's definitely common to kind of push it off until the end. We definitely recommend starting early if you can. But it's obviously possible to still crank it out in a couple days if that's what you have to do. I know some people also, school's already out and you kind of only have so much time before you get a nomination and the application is due. So never fear, we have a lot of resources. If you do have to only have a couple of days before to open your application, but as much as possible, the project will just be more fresh the sooner you do it after your nomination too. So that's definitely a great piece of advice to share. All right, moving kind of away from the application and talking a little bit more about finals week, which I think every year we get a lot of questions about just what the finals week experience is like because it is so different from, your experience at your local science fair and just kind of presenting to judges. So would love to hear from all of y'all about what your favorite part of finals week was. And what should current applicants be excited about if they apply and get selected as a top 30 finalist?
Well, I feel like my favorite part was really just um the times where we really didn't have anything to do, and that kind of just like forced you to be friends with everybody there and just really share, and because you have nothing to do, so all you have to do is talk and talk and talk and share and just really become friends with these people that you're sharing. You're going to be with them from like 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. most days for a week. So really, there's really nothing you can lose. And from those times where we were bored and had nothing to do, I've made many friendships that I still consistently talk to them to this day. It's been months and still we keep in touch, and it's really just formed really nice friendships.
My favorite part of finals week was talking to all these people because they have no idea who you are, what you do, what your hobbies are. So you can really connect with people over all these hobbies. And then another thing would probably be the monument tour that we did at night. That was really fun. I got to see all these monuments that I've never seen before and all these like great pieces of architecture.
I would say I would agree with both of those things. I think my favorite times were the times when we got to just kind of bond with the other finalists who were there. And I would say also the special thing about JIC was that we got to have the team challenges with other people that kind of also helped us bond more because it's a team of five that you're spending a majority of your time. Like when we were not relaxing, when we're taking part in the JIC challenge, that was the people that we're spending most of our time with. And that also helped to form, I think, closer bonds and friendships there.
Yeah, I agree with all of them as well. Yeah. Uh, a lot of the fun parts of the Thermo Fisher JIC were building connections and bonds with the other finalists, and also exploring DC as a city. And also, the challenges were a really cool way to try to solve real world problems as a group, which, as Yuki said, did make everyone a lot closer.
I think I agree with all of you, but also like people finding out about your research. Like a US Army general reached out to me about my research, which was pretty cool in my opinion.
Yeah, that's
And
awesome. Oh, go ahead.
like just like being in a team was so much fun.
Yeah, we really emphasize the teamwork as a part of this challenge or this competition. That's a huge part of finals week. So yeah, love that you all talked a lot about the challenges and being in teams together. And I think Simone, what you were saying, like there's always kind of random cool opportunities that come up during the week that, we couldn't even predict that might happen. But there's just, the nature of the competition that there's all sorts of opportunities that can present itself. And um, we always say that the top prize really, there's awards that are obviously offered, but making it to the top 30 and just experiencing the week together and meeting all of the people, like you said, is really what we always say the biggest prize of finals week is. I like, Camilla, that you were noting all the kind of quote unquote downtime because we know we pack those schedules in really tight. So definitely you will be with people from like 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. some days. So I'm glad you all found time to have a little bit of rest and relaxation. Um, so, and our next question is just kind of just how this experience impacted you, right? How did being a Thermo Fisher JIC finalist impact you and your STEM interests, not only while you were there as a finalist, but did it, looking beyond that, did the week inspire you to explore something new or continue down your research path that you're already on? Just interested to know how finals week shaped you and your interests moving forward.
For me, like I said earlier, it made me do a revised version of the project next year. And then also seeing all these great projects and how they did all these different things. Like some of them were doing complex math problems and others were in the medical field. It was just a great diversity of all these great projects, and I got to learn a lot about every single field.
I would
I
say,
think
oh, sorry.
go ahead.
You- Oh, okay. I would say I think I kind of already had an idea of what I wanted to do for the next year, but being surrounded by other people who are also like really focused on research for a week definitely inspired me to like go home and continue working on the project that I had kind of already started. And yeah, like taking inspiration from all the other people who were working on projects just like me was great.
Yeah, Thermo Fisher JIC impacted me a lot. It motivated me to go further with a similar type of design of project that I was doing, but I also wanted to explore other areas because of it. And I ended up doing something that I never thought I would have done last year.
I thought it like made me more excited to do science fair projects and got me interested in fields of science that I hadn't like really thought about before.
I feel that once I got into Thermo Fisher JIC, it just really looking back, it really helped motivate me to see so many people because I had mentioned before, it's really, really rare in my school to do science research, to do things related to STEM. And when I got to see that there was so many people in my same exact shoes going through the same exact processes, the same exact research, it just really helped me expand my point of view. And the Thermo Fisher JIC, after the weekend, there's so many doors that keep on opening for you. There's so many different opportunities, and that the Thermo Fisher JIC opened for me, and that I'm so grateful for.
So great to hear all of that. So reminder for our folks who are watching, feel free to drop any questions you have for our alumni in the chat. We'll turn over to audience submitted questions in just a minute. But another question for you all related to the application. What tips do you have for students when they get stuck trying to answer the application questions?
like I was saying earlier, with these pauses and breaks and all these chunks, in those chunks you can like think about all the questions while you're doing something else. And if you got stuck on a question, you could either skip it and move on and then come back to it, or you could take your break then, and then you can really like have it come to you while you're taking your break, and you're like, oh, I could write this down for that question.
Yeah, I agree with Luca on this one. A very good way to do that is try to get a fresh set of eyes. So take a break for a while, do something. Maybe yeah, you could develop an idea or think of one when you come back when you're perhaps more relaxed.
I know for me last year, one of the most difficult parts that I kept getting stuck on consistently was the essays. So really what I'd like to do is that the words were just they weren't coming to me. So when I would jot down like a list of what I wanted to include in the essay, like main bullet points and what I really wanted to emphasize. And then I took it from there and I decided, okay, so this is going to be the first thing I mentioned, the second thing I mentioned, the third thing I mentioned. And then eventually, once you really already have your outline, the words will just start flowing out because eventually you realize that these essays are just your story put onto paper.
I think it's important to like take breaks while you get stuck and just come back to it. And also what helped me was answering it as if it was a conversation. Like, how would I answer this if I was talking to someone?
Yeah, and yeah, like what Simone said, I would definitely advise taking breaks in the middle. Like I would find myself over the weekend spending a couple hours on it and then just getting really tired and not really feeling like writing about my project anymore. And I think if you take a break and that can really help you kind of like remember what you were trying to say or like find a way to phrase something better. And um yeah.
Yeah, those are all really great pieces of advice. Definitely taking breaks. Um, you t Thinking of the questions like a conversation. We try to write especially part three, the project essays, in a way that hopefully feels like a judging interview because we know, all of the nominees have had that experience. So we also recommend, just answering those questions out loud to yourself, to someone else, and recording that. And then that could help you just transcribing your responses as a starting point for writing the project essays. And Camila, I like what you said too about just like whenever I have a writer's block, writing down short notes. It doesn't have to be a perfectly wonderful, flushed out, perfect grammar document, but just start putting some notes down on paper and then you'll be surprised about how quickly it can go from there. So great pieces of advice, everyone. Definitely love that. Um, and then our last question here before we jump to audience questions is I think one that I know I sometimes still feel that, you make mistakes and sometimes that can kind of get you stuck. Um, so what mistakes did you all make during your research project and what did you learn from it? I think that's something everyone can kind of relate to.
My research project was on measuring gases in the air using a drone, and I found that there were spikes in the CO2. So I was thinking about it and I was like, what is happening there? Why are there all these spikes? And I realized I was too close to the road and all these cars were emitting CO2 and it would hit the sensor. And then the sensor would read that and then I'd have all these spikes. So I learned that the environment really has an impact on uh, all the data you get, and that sometimes all these mistakes, you can't really stop them from happening, but you can find a way around it.
So, part of my project, what my project was basically doing was that it was studying dengue virus transmission among 440 samples of people living in Puerto Rico. And as part of the test that you have to perform on those samples, you have to dilute the samples. And you only find out if you diluted them correctly at the end of the entire process. So once you got your results back and you found out that maybe 20 samples you didn't dilute correctly, it really became frustrating because then that's 20 samples down the drain. But then you really have to come to terms with the fact that that's something out of your control. You couldn't do anything to change it, and you can't do anything to change it now. And you just have to move on and keep on going because the project isn't over yet, and there's still other things you have to do.
My project involved using AI to detect landmines, which involved taking a lot of pictures of a model of a landmine in different environments. And my dog grabbed the model and ran away with it, which taught me to be careful with my work.
My project was about predicting and optimizing the energy needs of a Martian colony. And one of the key mistakes I made while doing it was I made my equations for over a long stretch of time, like 3, 4 months. So I forgot to standardize some units in a few of the equations, which led to like some bogus results. And I was like, why did this happen? And this taught me to be more like focused on exactly what are you doing right now.
So my project was about detecting dyslexia from brain scans, MRIs, and to process the brain scans so that the AI model that I was training could actually learn from them. I had to split the brain scans into different brain parts and then also separate into gray and white matter. And I learned that the order of that really mattered because when I tried to split it into parts first and then split into gray and white matter, I found that like some of the individual parts were way too small for the method I was using to split them into gray and white matter. And yeah, so I learned that sometimes the order of things can really matter and like the specific details.
Yeah, thanks everyone. I feel like, all of you did such, different types of research projects, but everyone makes mistakes, right? That's just part of the scientific process and you're not going to get around it. But you just got to work through it. And sometimes even when you try to make the most perfect process, follow all the steps to a T, there can be factors that you didn't think of or your mentor didn't think of or that come up that can affect things, and that's okay. And we also say, in the application, there's a question that asks about that, right? So the judges and the evaluators that are reading your research and reading your applications expect that not everything is going to go perfect and not everything is going to go as you expected it to. But it's really great when you can understand when something went wrong or why something went wrong and talk about how you made modifications and talk about how you realized something went wrong. So I think you all did a great job of sharing that. And hopefully everyone at home, we know that you feel a little bit better hearing from these for finalists that they have mistakes too that they encountered, but you can always overcome them. All right, thank you everyone so much. We got a couple questions from the audience. One question that I thought would be fun to answer that we got was there a skill that you had to highlight during finals week that you kind of weren't expecting? I know we talked about, what finals week entails and how team challenges are part of judging. But was there anything that kind of surprised you about what skills you were showcasing throughout judging, whether it was project judging, was a little bit more familiar, or, during the challenges, maybe especially during challenges, I think that are out of your comfort zone, that might have been a little bit of a different experience.
I feel like definitely one of the main things that you have to do during challenges, during finals week, is that you have to learn to rely on other people. You're a team of five, and you're not always going to have all the answers. They're a team of five for a reason, and everyone is always going to have their own roles during projects. You might not be good at something, and then the next challenge, you're the best in the group. It's always you got to learn to take a step back and realize when you might need a little bit of help and feel that vulnerability in front of the judges and not feel like because of that you're going to be marked down because you're not the best in your group at this activity or that activity. But really what the judges see is that you can work it as a team and you can trust in your team and that you can really just let go of the wheel and be relaxed and calm in a competitive environment.
For my team, I was team silver. All these different like challenges really seem to like fit to a specific person's skill set. So we had some people who were designing something, and then we had a designing challenge. And then some people like me who were coding during their project, and then we had a coding challenge. So for our team, the like challenges really highlighted a certain person's skill set and really helped the judges see what we're good at and what we're okay at and what we still need help or we don't have yet.
And I think the teams were distributed so that there was like a wide variety of skill sets within each one. And the challenges had enough variety within, like each challenge was focused on a separate STEM skill. And having that variety within the team really helped us do well in each challenge. And as Camila said, learning to rely on each other within the team was definitely a really big part of the overall challenge.
Yeah, I agree with what you guys have said about not knowing like the different parts on some challenges. And I think asking your teammates for help about what you don't understand, and then making sure they understand when you're understanding the problem or the challenge.
Yeah, another like key skill for this competition is more obvious this time communication. You need to be able to get people to understand what you're trying to what you're trying to talk about, and this goes pretty well with you need to also be able to rely on your group. You need uh, everyone to be able to depend on each other, and that requires basic communication ability and the ability to explain in your ideas.
Yeah, for sure. We always say that during the team challenges, your best plan of action is to talk through things with your team. You definitely want to be talking aloud, sharing what you're thinking, because that way you also get to share ideas with the rest of your teammates, and that might help your teammates think of something that, maybe you didn't think of, or maybe they hadn't thought about before, but your idea helped spark that. So, yeah, love everything that everyone said there. I think the team challenges are so unique, and he really hit the ground running on that Sunday of the first challenge where it's a lot of new stuff all at once, but you have at least four different opportunities after that to kind of work through things. And like you all said, there's we make the teams in a very specific way so that everyone has a chance to shine and that there's a good balance between it. So um, yeah, definitely uh, loved everything that everyone said about the team challenges, and hopefully that helped explain a little bit about what that looks like for the folks watching. Our next question is about the application, and might be hard to remember, but curious to know if anyone can remember what they did in the application that you felt, made your application more unique, or kind of how did you put your best foot forward when you were writing your application? Was there anything that you particularly wanted to highlight? Any way that you kind of approached the project essays as people, are trying to convert their research and maybe their posters into the written application? Curious if anyone has thoughts on that.
Well, I feel like what stood out most that I really thought in my mind like sealed the deal on my application was my essays. And I really feel like the essays are like such a vital part of the application because everything else is just your technical jargon, your projects, your extracurriculars, your everything. But then your essays, your writing is where it like really shines through your personality, what you feel, what you see, your point of view. And I personally am really good at writing, so I felt like my essays really got my point across, and that being able to really show your personality through the application, I feel really did a good amount of progress.
I
Yeah,
think
sorry.
you go ahead. Okay. I think I tried to answer the essays like as honestly as possible. Um, and yeah, for the actual like more project focused ones, those are pretty technical. Those were, I think, easier for me to write because that was more about my project and the technical details that I already knew really well from presenting and doing the work. And I think the more personal essays were a little bit harder for me to write, but they're a lot about your experience, and I think being as honest as possible in those is kind of the best way to approach them.
Yeah, I agree with both Yukta and Camila. So I do feel like the essays were one of the key things that were more important in the application because a lot of the other stuff is kind of showing what you think, it's showing about your project, but the essays, they show how you think. How do you solve a problem? And for me, I approached these essays the same way I did a lot of the problems in my project. I tried to break it down into smaller pieces and think of good ways to just solve them by listing it out.
Yeah, I agree with what Sadar said about like the essays being the hardest part and about what you think. But I think for the essays, just like talking about like just be yourself when you're writing. Just like say it how you would in a conversation.
Yeah, for sure. I think the essays can be a little bit tricky. That's like something the creative essays, the personal essays, right? That folks maybe have less experience with. You obviously are experts in your research project. You know that in and out. So part three is usually easier for folks to approach. But the creative essays can be a section that trips some people up a little bit, but I think you all hit the nail on the head. It's really about showcasing yourself, right? Your interests, your passions, and having that passion come through throughout the application. I think that's a really great way to make your application stand out. And then another question that we got that I'll kind of tackle that's related to it is, what are some common mistakes that we see in the application? I would say that trying to put those questions into any sort of generative AI to answer is a big mistake. People, our judges and evaluators are quite familiar with what AI responses look like, so that's also against our rules. So we definitely recommend, what everyone said here, using your own voice, making sure your own voice comes through in your application is a big part of it. Um, and not spending time on those essays, right? It's there's no right answer to those creative essays, so you don't have to worry about, am I answering this in the most perfect way? It's really about having your own voice kind of come through there. Um, so I think that's what I would say for some of the most common mistakes about the application. Um, and then I think we're going to end with one last question, which don't know if you all have answers to, but I thought it was a nice way to kind of wrap things up. How do you hope your research impacts the world? Maybe just the world, like your community close to you, or how do you feel like it might go beyond there? It doesn't have to be your JIC research project either. It could be something new that you're working on too.
Like I said earlier with my project, it was about finding all these harmful gases in the atmosphere, and I hope that it could become big enough uh, so people could get it at a low cost and measure their own air quality to see if it's safe or not.
My
I
project,
actually, go ahead.
go ahead.
So I actually got this question during judging, and I like distinctly remember that what I'd said about my research was that I just wanted my research to be seen, and for some, if it can help one person, then that's all that matters. Because the research, no matter how many people it affects, or I mean, obviously we all hope that a research can change the world, but sometimes that's not the case, and that's perfectly fine. Because research is something that can affect one person or it can affect a million people, and it's still valid.
Yeah, to build on what Camila said, I hope that my research, whether it solves key issues or not, I hope it at least lays a foundation, sets a few bricks down in solving a grand challenge problem.
My research was about using AI to detect landmines, and like when the army general met with me, I got like, wow, this could actually be a tool, which was super exciting.
And my research was on detecting dyslexia using AI. So I would hope that this could be implemented for children who can know whether they have dyslexia before they ever start school. And so they can really get the help they need while they're learning to read.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you all so much. I feel like it's no matter what your research project was, right? And even just as young students, you have the chance to impact someone or many people, and that's what's so cool about research, and that's what's so cool about this competition because it can, I hope, give folks that enter and go on to compete like you all did more confidence in the work that they're doing and in the fact that the work that you're doing matters. And it's really important that you just keep pursuing those passions, whether it's what you're studying now or just I think the idea that the work you do can make a difference, no matter what that work is really at the end of the day what we hope this competition helps students realize. So thank you all so much for sharing your experience and your words of advice and encouragement for this year's nominees. We really appreciate it. They really appreciate it. For everyone watching at home, thank you so much for joining us. I know Alex has been busy in the chat answering a lot of the questions that we got that were more technical and about the application. If you did not have your question answered today, please feel free to email us at jic@societyforscience.org. We are going to be checking that inbox very frequently over the next about 3 weeks. I think we have until the application deadline of June 10th. So rest assured, we will get back to you. And good luck, everyone, as you continue working on your applications. We know you're going to do great. You've already done the hard part by completing your research project, entering science fair, competing at science fair, getting that top 10%, getting that nomination. So be so proud of yourself and yourselves and the work that you've already accomplished. You're doing a wonderful, wonderful job. And again, you really have nothing to lose by just hitting that submit button. So hope to see all of you do that. And take care. Have a great night, everyone.